Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also apologies if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it can't be helped, and hopefully it's not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and another installment in my sporadic series titled What We Know So Far, where I go through pretty much everything we as Eurovision fans know so far about the upcoming edition of the Eurovision Song Contest, which as we all know will take place next May somewhere in Switzerland. As always, you're welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment down below, and as always there are links in the description to my other social media pages, check them out if you so wish. Anybody who has been a regular viewer of my content for some time will realise that things might be looking a little bit different. That is because I have a new desk, and that desk has been rotated from where the old desk was. So this is essentially the new view, the new setup for videos moving forwards. Hopefully it is not too bad for you. So I have information in front of me to make sure I don't forget anything too important. Not much really has changed since the last time I filmed a video like this one, but as we are now edging ever closer towards the start of the 2025 season, I thought it would be a good idea towards the end of August to film another What We Know So Far video. So with that in mind, here we go. We know that next year's competition will be the 69th edition of the Eurovision Song Contest. It's being organised by the EBU and SRGSSR, that is the Swiss Broadcasting Corporation. It will take place next May. We don't know the dates yet, but I imagine we will find out on the 30th of this month, because that is when we will all find out the host city of next year's event. Will it be Basel or will it be Geneva? They are the two cities left in contention, and I assume people in a position of power in Switzerland right now have already made that decision, and they're just waiting to reveal the news to everybody else. I cannot imagine that they are still deliberating things at this point, but you never know. I believe that it's probably going to be Geneva, but I think I would prefer Basel, especially if it is at their football stadium. More on that shortly. Martin Österdahl remains as the executive supervisor, although I believe there's a new role to do with Eurovision as well, which has, I believe, stemmed from the controversy surrounding Eurovision 2024. I don't know too much about it, it doesn't really matter. As of right now, and as I talk to you, it is August the 23rd, we know that 24 countries are very likely to take part in next year's Eurovision Song Contest, including Montenegro, who will return for the first time since Turin 2022. Now it says here, and I will read this aloud to you, after Switzerland's win in this year's contest, the local authorities of Geneva expressed interest in hosting the 2025 edition at Palexpo and submitted a formal application. On the same day, the president of the Basel Stadt government also expressed interest in Basel hosting the 2025 event. St. Gallen was in contention at one stage, but I don't believe they formally submitted a bid, so they were absolutely out of contention. Lugano, which hosted the very first contest in 1956, never stood much of a chance, and Lausanne, which hosted the last time Switzerland was the host nation back in 1989, they weren't terribly interested either due to a lack of infrastructure. Bielbienne and Bern, they were in the hunt for a while, with the Neue Festhalle, which would have been a new build venue for Eurovision, always a bit risky. Then again, it did work in Baku back in 2012, but those locations were never really likely to come out on top, in all honesty. And also Zurich. Now they had two suitable venues, especially the Hallenstadion, which has hosted the Zurich Open tennis in the past, 1993 to 2008. I was really surprised Zurich did not make the final two. There must be a reason for this. Maybe they didn't have enough of an idea as to how the whole competition was going to pan out, and all of these extra events that a city puts on for Eurovision. Maybe they didn't have much of an idea, maybe they weren't fleshed out enough. I don't know, maybe the venue wasn't suitable, maybe the ceiling height wasn't high enough, or maybe there was an issue with something else to do with the infrastructure in Zurich. Nevertheless, it's not going to be Zurich. It is either going to be Basel or Geneva, and I've spoken about these two locations previously, but I'll briefly mention them again. The Palexpo is a convention centre which is literally around the corner from where the EBU is based, which makes me very strongly think that this is where everybody's going to be headed next May. The Palexpo in Geneva. It's very close to the international airport. It's hosted a whole bunch of things over the years. It opened in 1981, and it has a capacity of something. It doesn't actually say on this page. I think somewhere in the region of 10 to 12,000. I imagine it will be somewhere in that region. We also have two locations in Basel, the St. Jakobshalle, which I have to say from the outside maybe doesn't look like the most appealing venue, but it is what it is. It is a place that has staged tennis and handball and curling in the past, and it has a capacity of just over 12,000, but that will be slightly less of Eurovision stage there, because of course you need to construct the stage, put all the lighting equipment in, and possibly have the green room as part of the arena floor as well. So let's say it's more likely to be just over 10,000. It opened in 1976, and that's all there really is to say about that one. But the one that really interests me is the St. Jakob Park, which is literally over the road from the venue that I just mentioned. It is the home of FC Basel, who maybe aren't the force that they once were in Swiss football. This has a capacity of just over 38,000 for football, 40,000 for concerts, but again, that would be several thousand less if this was the venue for Eurovision next year. Of course, Basel is very close to the border of France and Germany, so there's this nice little trifecta thing going on, which a lot of people have picked up on. So maybe that could work in Basel's favour. Remember when Eurovision was in Liverpool, a lot of people stayed in Manchester, which isn't that far away, and commuted into Liverpool for Eurovision. With Malmö, a lot of people stayed in Copenhagen and just went over the bridge for the contest this year. So maybe the people organising Eurovision for 2025, they're thinking about this. Basel might be a little bit more suitable than Geneva in that regard. I don't know. But anyway, the St. Jakob Park has been there since 2001. It staged matches at Euro 2008. It staged the 2016 Europa League final. It will stage matches next summer in the Women's European Championship in football. It's a lovely venue. Switzerland's national football team have played there a bunch of times. And I like the look of it. The only issue is that it would need a roof for Eurovision, which could be a little bit pricey. And the Swiss government, and I know some individuals in the Swiss government, aren't exactly chuffed that Eurovision is in Switzerland next year, from what I've read. But would they really want to fund? Would the Basel government really be enthralled at the idea of forking out money for a roof? I don't know. I don't know. I am not in Basel, therefore I have no idea what conversations are taking place. But if it was me, if I was the decision maker and I had all of the information on the table in front of me, I would probably go with Basel. I really would. The football stadium, I think it would be fantastic to have Eurovision in a place that big, in all honesty. I don't know about the acoustics. I mean, 2001, that was a big issue back then, but things have changed since then. But as for Geneva, the venue is right next to where the EBU are based. And I think that's really working in their favour. Plus, it's right next to the airport, great transport links. Geneva's a bustling, exciting city, I guess. So it could be very close, this. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's Geneva. But I hope it's Basel. And if it is Basel, I think it should be at St. Jakob Park and not St. Jakobshalle. That's just my personal preference. If you are Swiss, let me know what the conversations are in Switzerland at the moment. Is there a front runner, and who would you like to see come out on top, and why? Do feel free to let me know. Now, in terms of the participating countries, as I said earlier, 24 have said that yes, we would like to take part next year, but the final list of participants won't be revealed until probably sometime in the new year. around the time of the allocation draw, which is usually right at the end of January. So going through the countries here, just bear with me. Albania will be back, and they will select their entry through FIC once again around Christmas time. Now, I believe it's going to be a similar format to last time, and indeed over the past 2 or 3 years, where we have the winner of the festival, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to Eurovision. There will be a separate public vote. You'll remember that last Christmas, Mao won the festival, but he didn't go to Eurovision. Besser did instead, and I think that was absolutely the right choice. But it also says here that I believe after the 2 heats or the 2 semi-finals, there's going to be a show which is a sort of nostalgia evening, and it's very much going to focus on Albania's past entries in Eurovision. Of course, this year marks 2 decades since Albania debuted in Istanbul, and I think they really want to celebrate that with the next edition of FIC. So we'll see what happens moving forwards. As for Austria, it's going to be an internal selection again, and we will probably find out the artist and the song next February. Azerbaijan, a similar deal. I believe that they are looking for entries right now. I do like what Azerbaijan have done over the past 2 years, which is really try and do everything themselves rather than roping in Scandinavian songwriters. But in all honesty, maybe they need to do that again, because that way they might get back into the final again. I don't know. As for Belgium, well, they need to bounce back after a year of disappointment. VRT are going to have Eurosong, so it's a national final by the looks of it for 2025. Cyprus, I believe we are going to get the Cypriot artist and possibly the song by this time next month. And I did read something very recently suggesting that it is a musician with Cypriot roots. So not necessarily from Cyprus themselves. Let's not forget, Cilia Kapsis, Australian, Andrew Lambrou, Australian. Will it be a hat-trick of Australian/Cypriot musicians? We'll have to wait and see. Will it be another pop song? Who knows? As for Denmark, well, MGP 2025 is on March the 1st next year, and there's a lot riding on Denmark next year because they haven't been in a final this decade. And they were a bit unlucky with Saba this time around, back in Malmö, but surely things have got to change. You know, this is just unprecedented. Denmark haven't missed so many finals in a row. It says here that it will take place in Herning, and we will find out more details moving forwards. I imagine there will be 8 songs involved again. As for Finland, UMK will be back in February. I think it's going to be at the same venue as it was earlier this year, and it'll be interesting to see if Finland send the right song for Eurovision 2025. As for France, well, they are just riding this upward trajectory in many ways. Slimane did so well. Yes, Lazara in 2023, the result was maybe a bit disappointing, but the song was pretty good. Alvan and the Hez, that was disappointing, the result, but the song was pretty good. And I do think that France have turned a corner. I think those dark old days may be long gone. I don't know. And of course, they only have to breathe at Junior Eurovision, and they've won that. But France will be back in 2025, as will Germany, and I believe they are sticking with a national final format, organised once again by the same branch of the broadcaster. And of course, Germany did well this year. Their best result for a long time, just outside the top 10. It was a song that finished in the top 10 in the jury vote, absolutely. But can they get the public on board? We'll just have to wait and see. Israel will be back, which of course is massively controversial in the eyes and ears of many people, waiting to see what they do next. My only concern with this, and I really don't want to go all political all of a sudden, but I really hope we don't keep having situations moving forwards where, as the tension and conflict continues in that part of the world, I don't want another situation next year where we come to the public half of the results in the final and Israel get 300 plus points. Because this year that was a massively generous, inflated score. Of that there is no doubt. And I don't want something like that to happen again, especially if the song ain't good enough. So it does sort of skew the results, and it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forwards, because so many people are unhappy about this. There was talk of a boycott, which I don't think really happened at all, did it, for 2024? People were still tweeting all the way through the show. So it is what it is. I mean, I really don't have much else to say about this, but is anything really going to be different at Eurovision in 2025 in comparison to what we had in 2024? Probably not. Probably not. As for Italy, Sanremo will be back, the 75th edition of it, so it's going to be big business. And it's going to take place on February the 15th, that's the grand final of it. I believe the format is a little bit different, but I can't remember exactly how. Of course, we have a whole bunch of artists, half perform on one evening, half on the other evening, although this year I'm starting to recall that they all performed together on the first night. I don't really remember. There is, of course, a live orchestra. It takes place in Sanremo, which is this beautiful town on the northwest coast of Italy. It's a very compact theatre. Everybody sits there in their finest suits and finest dresses. It's very formal stuff, it must be said, but the music is top quality. And there's also a covers evening, and the votes are accumulated over the course of a week, and then we have a super final, and it finishes, I don't know, it usually finishes in about June because it lasts that long. But I'm really looking forward to it. You know there's going to be big names involved, and as it's the 75th edition, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some throwback names in the lineup as well. People who maybe represented Italy, 4 decades ago or something like that. As for Latvia, well, they made the final this year, which is great stuff. Can they make it 2 years in a row? Supernova will be back in February, and they are looking for songs now. As for Lithuania, they're also looking for songs, I think. Eurovision.lt, the final of which will be on the same day as the final of Sanremo, but it will finish hours earlier, February the 15th, and yes, Lithuania will be back. And of course, this is a country that has qualified regularly over the past few years, and the results haven't been too bad at all, so I think they're really trying to get that first win. Luxembourg will be back. Their national final will be in January. They're looking for songs, and let's hope that they are a little bit more original than the songs that we had in the national final for 2024. Malta will be back. I assume it's going to be a national final. Yes, it is. There is a songwriting camp. Heavens above. Doesn't that sound like such fun, dear viewers? You know half of the names that are going to be involved, because when Malta have had national selections, the same names do crop up more often than not. Haven't appeared in a final for a few years now, and we know that the public, for some reason, can't stand Malta at Eurovision because the scores are always disappointing, and it's a 100% public vote semi-final system, heavens above. So Malta, a little bit dead and buried upon arrival, you could say. That sounds very harsh, but if it's a cracking song, and I hope it is a cracking competitive entry, then surely the public will be on board in 2025. The quality has to start with the national final, though. Yes, it does. Montenegro will be back, and we are going to find out the singer and the song after the 1st of October, apparently. Now, I do need to look something up there, so we'll get back to them in just a moment. But welcome back, Montenegro. Very nice to see. Norway, MGP will be back, and it's going to take place at some point in the new year. I imagine the format will be very similar to what we had this year. Will Ulrika be back? I don't know, but I'd like to see her try again. As for Portugal, FDC, which is usually on the same day, the final is usually on the same day as the Melfest final. So this will be, if we take a look at the calendar, I'm going to say that's going to be March the 8th. It'll be sometime around then. FDC, the quality is usually not too bad at all, and we will find out who represents Portugal in 2025 around that time. As for San Marino, 22nd of February apparently for Una Voce per San Marino 2025. Once again, there's going to be shows galore, artists left, right and centre, and the quality will be not that great, in all honesty. As for Serbia, Pesma za Eurovision, or whatever it's called, something similar to that. It will take place at some point soon. It says here, yes, that they are going to have a national selection. Lovely stuff. Serbia, of course, regular qualifiers for the final, and did well in 2022. Konstrakta tried again this year, didn't win, but maybe she will try again at some point in the future. Who knows? Who knows? Spain, Benidorm Fest will take place on the 1st of February, the final. There are new features, apparently. Now, I did read this a long time ago, but I've forgotten what they are, so let's wait for that page to load up. As for Sweden, Melfest is back, and it will start around the time of my birthday, which is the first week of February. So let's say February the 8th will be the first heat. I imagine things are going to pan out in a very similar fashion to how they did this year, but the format has changed ever so slightly. This was announced very recently. Any song finishing 4th in a heat is out. Out. Only the songs finishing 3rd get a reprieve, and I believe during the final heat, the song that received the most points, finishing 3rd across all of the heats, is announced as a finalist straight away, I believe. But if we use the age range voting and the way that the points are announced on screen, then we may already know that very, very quickly. I don't know. And then I believe there's a vote for the other songs finishing 3rd across all of the heats, and then however many it is go through to the final. So the format has changed again, and I think it's the right thing to do, because the second chance round format this year was a bit shite, let's be honest. Fröken Snusk didn't make the final, despite the fact that she had the biggest song in Sweden at that point. So it was controversial. They've changed the format again, because Sweden just love tinkering with stuff. But this time around, I do think it's probably for the best. And at some point soon, we will find out the cities hosting those heats for Melfest 2025. Now, going back to Spain, what's this? Yes. Let's just press that. So I've had to translate this from Spanish. Oh, here we go, yes. The semi-finals will be on the 28th and 30th of January, and the finals on February the 1st. There will be new features. A system similar to that of Eurovision will be adopted, in which those classified for the final will be announced randomly without knowing the order of results or scores. This measure is being taken to give equal starting points for the final. I see. Yes, because we do know exactly how each song fared in the semi-finals, but we're not going to know that this time. Which is interesting, I suppose. What else is there? Different advisors? I don't know what this is all about. And it doesn't really matter. So we can get rid of that. If there was any lag there, apologies. Let's move on. Obviously, Switzerland, as the host nation, they will be back. And I think the submission period for songs... Has it already closed? I feel like I saw something about that yesterday. But anyway, of course, it'll be interesting to see how Switzerland follow up the code next year, automatically in the final. And then the UK, who the hell knows what the BBC have planned, but they will be back, and they must look at different genres of music. They must actively be looking at different genres of music. Indie, rock, jazzy stuff, country music, the whole shebang. I'm all for it. You must be looking at these other styles of music. It is now time, and you can look at those other styles of music and not necessarily take a massive risk on a song, if you see what I mean. It doesn't have to be something out of the Electro Velvet songbook, taking a risk like that. It can be something that maybe on the surface feels fairly ordinary, perhaps fairly uninspired, but there's that little sprinkling of magic in the song as well, which just makes it stand out from the field. And you can absolutely have that in a rock song, in an indie sounding song, in a jazzy type song. I'm all for it. We must be looking at songs in that style. And if I was in charge, I would be absolutely making it clear that that's what we're looking for, because it is time for a different sound at Eurovision for the BBC. But we move on. It says here about Croatia. They will be back, of course. They did very well this year, but they haven't confirmed yet. Czechia, we're not entirely sure, but we will find out next month. The Netherlands, I'll talk about in just a moment. I need to go back to Montenegro as well. Slovenia, I believe that they are having a national final. Andorra, Bosnia, and Slovakia will not take part. Boo, boo, boo. Unbelievable stuff. Now, Kosovo, who've never taken part, have said that they applied for EBU membership, but this month it was rejected because full membership is a prerequisite to competing in the contest. And the EBU was against management changes at the Kosovan broadcaster, so I imagine that they are furious. But maybe Kosovo will debut at some point fairly soon. Now, as for the Netherlands, I won't go into this in great depth because I would like to wrap this video up. But Joost Klein has essentially been... nothing's really happening in that department anymore. Obviously, he was disqualified about 24 hours before the grand final this year. Massively controversial. Nobody really knew what the hell happened. We still don't really know what the hell happened. Nothing's been completely confirmed, I guess, as to what happened behind the scenes. But what we do know is that the investigation has been dropped, something akin to that. Joost Klein, if he wanted to do Eurovision again, I'm sure a lot of people would be thrilled about it. I think he would want to do it again. But it also says here that the Dutch broadcaster has said that the chances of the Netherlands participating in 2025 are small. Which is interesting, because I've also seen something very briefly recently on social media, not that I've been using social media too much lately, suggesting that the Dutch broadcaster want to sort of make amends with the EBU, and perhaps vice versa. I don't know what to believe. I hope the Netherlands take part next year, because they're one of my favourite countries, full stop. And the quality of music that we've had from them over the years, certainly the past couple of years, De Diepte, Heavens Above, what top quality stuff that was. We've had some great, great songs. And moving forwards, we're going to have more great songs from the Netherlands. But whether that's in 2025 or not, I just don't know. Hopefully they will be back. And I've mentioned Slovenia and all of the others indeed. Now, Montenegro, I don't know if it's going to say here. Yeah, they were going to take part in 2023, I think, and they did have a song and artist lined up, and people were excited by what Montenegro had in store, but I can't seem to find who that was. I think it was an American musician. You'll know who I'm on about, I'm sure, but maybe call them up, see if they want to take part in a national final, because I believe that is what Montenegro are planning to do moving forwards. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, that is pretty much it with regards to what we know so far regarding Eurovision 2025. The presenters we won't know for a long time, but on the 30th of August, we will find out most likely the dates of next year's competition, and absolutely whether it is Basel or Geneva 2025. And if it's anything like what it has been in previous years, there will be an announcement video on the Eurovision Song Contest YouTube channel, and I will probably watch it, react to it, and upload my reaction to YouTube. That might well be my next video, I don't know. That's all there really is to say. Very messy stuff from me once again, but thank you very much for watching. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and check out my social media pages, links in the description, if you so wish. Hopefully the quality wasn't too bad. If it was pretty iffy, apologies. This is the new view and new setup, as I said earlier. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye for now. See you soon.